And Brian? Okay, so introducing our next speaker is his son, Brian Gonroff.
Good morning. Good morning. My name's Brian Gonroff. We journeyed here to Dayton, my brother, myself, and my dad. My dad invited us to take him to his first reunion. We talked about it last year, and we were thinking about going to New Orleans, but that didn't happen. So we loaded up the truck, as they say, or a van, and we drove from Syracuse to stopped over in Erie, Pennsylvania, had fun there, sort of, and as much fun as you can have in Erie, but it's a pretty area. And then arrived here and got all settled, so we're very, very honored to be here with my dad. And it's one of those once-in-a-lifetime things, and we're hoping we can come next year to wherever it's going to be. I'm going to introduce my dad in a minute. First, I'm going to do just a real quick background, and then he's going to come up and talk a little bit about his service and a couple stories. So my dad flew 50 missions. He joined the 464th Bombardment Group on July 12th of 1943. He was a technical sergeant. He was awarded in recognition of his outstanding service with the Air Medal, the 1st, 2nd, 3rd Oak Leaf Clusters, Distinguished Flying Cross, and a Purple Heart. He kept a somewhat detailed diary of his missions. And so rather than, I can't read all 50, so I went through and I tried to pick out a couple that were pretty representative of his experience. One towards at the beginning. I guess they were both like midway through, but they have dates. So I'm going to read a couple of them for you. May 13th, 1944, Target, Parma, Italy. They told us at the briefing that this one was going to be a milky, and perhaps it was for some of the crews, but on the way to the target we flew over an undisclosed flak battery, which resulted in us losing the number 3 engine. Instead of bombing the target, our plane went off alone and bombed the Isle of Elby's harbor installations, and they threw some flak up at us, but we didn't get any serious hits, didn't run into any fighters, and this time one of my guns worked, getting better all the time. So apparently, as I read the diary, it became clear that his guns didn't work a lot, which is kind of a problem since he was a gunner. Here's another one. This is September 22nd, 1944. Guess it was about time I got hooked on a Munich raid. The old beer hall really took a plastering that day. The colonel did another good evasive action job. No fighters, but we lost one plane to flak. So I'm going to have my dad come up, and I'd like to introduce him, Fred Gonroff. And I want to assist.
All set?
Almost.
Okay, sort of on the lighter side first, I want to tell you after we got located and situated in Panatella, Our tent was right on the edge of this farm place there. And I decided to take a little walk around by the farm there, and I came across the
There you go.
came across a pea patch, and I started eating the peas there actually, and lo and behold, off in the distance, somebody on a horse was galloping towards me actually. So as I approached, I noticed that it was a young fella riding bareback on a horse there. He approached me real fast and sort of like threatening. Of course, I was wearing my shoulder holster, so I made a gesture. I was going to go for the gun, and he halted up there. And then what I did is I took some money out of my pocket. I must have flicked him a couple of dollars actually, and that kind of calmed him down. And so he made a gesture to eat all the peas that I wanted. So eventually this young fellow was able to secure a job working for our group and our tent, and maybe some other tents actually. And I made arrangements for him to have some an Italian dinner actually, or his mom actually. So I went to the mess hall and secured a sack of flour. So he gave to his mother actually, and eventually his mother was quite pleased because the flour was refined as compared to the flour that they used, was sort of a darker color actually. So as I say, they we made arrangements to have a dinner with a pasta and whatever they had. We ended up with pasta and chicken, and we topped that off with a glass of cognac. So that worked out pretty good there. He, as I say, he eventually worked his way and helped out a lot of the other crews. I guess he made a little extra money anyway. Anyhow, unfortunately, I couldn't remember what his name was actually, but that was sort of on the lighter side. I put pen and tell. Now the other part was when we went on a mission on July 8th. Was at Vienna suburb in Austria, and we arrived at the target area a little bit later than we should have, and we were flying way in the tail end Charlie. Our fighter escort was down below strafing, and of course then the German planes hit us from behind us. I know Jimmy Farmer, our tail gunner, he got a couple of planes down there. The waist gunners, well, of course, we got pretty well shot up at that time. The waist gunners, Junad, he lost his leg. The other waist gunner was peppered around his leg. Of course, he had a flak suit on, so fortunately he up above was okay. I was in a ball turret, and I was hit, and I must have lost consciousness for a few minutes or something, because I know when I came to, I could see that I could see holes in the plane where the German shells had hit. Our plane, I said, was pretty well beat up. It had engine problems, we lost our hydraulic system, our communication. I couldn't make any contact with anybody in a plane, and I didn't know what the heck was going on. So all I know is I could rotate my turret by hand, you know. And I had the notion, I said, well, maybe I should try to bail out because the plane was, you know, getting wobbly and full. And of course, I couldn't bail out. I didn't have my chute. My chute was up in the plane because the turret is so small, you don't have enough room to wear a chute. So eventually, somebody was able to crank me up into the plane there to get inside there. And as I say, the plane was in real bad shape. We didn't know whether we'd have to ditch in Adriatic or not, because we're headed towards Italy. We eventually were able to land in Foggia, actually, and we, due to the fact that we didn't have any hydraulics or anything like that, when we went to land, we couldn't retract the front wheel, which was okay, actually. It helped out because we didn't have any brakes anyhow, so the plane glided along the runway or the landing strip that they had there, and the ambulance came and picked us up. I ended up in a hospital in Foggia, field hospital there, and the good part about that, maybe some of you old-timers remember, I ran into Madeline Carroll. She was a Red Cross volunteer worker there, and I got to know her pretty well because she would have Hershey bars, and I had my GI issue chocolate, you know, which is pretty harsh, but it's a lot richer than a Hershey bar. So we swapped actually like that. So I was able to get the Hershey bars. She got her regular hard chocolate and that. But that was kind of my experience on July 8th. Glad to get out of that mess okay. I was able to finish up my missions in sometime in October, actually, at 44. So I want to thank you for listening. Oh, hope I wasn't too much of a bore.